All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and how you doing? Absolutely thrilled you guys are here with us tonight, and I'm not alone. I got my good friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard here.
Wow. Can you do me a favor and can you turn down my volume again? Wow.
Wow.
That introduction was loud, man. That's good. Perfect. Nice.
All right.
Until I, get my ears blown out again.
So once again, how you doing, Don?
I'm doing better now.
Okay,
Doing
good.
good. Excited. Gonna be a great show.
It is a good show, and we got a surprise for you all. Just sit around and waiting in the wings to come on and entertain us all tonight.
Keep 'em in the green,
we are
right?
joined tonight by our mystery guest, which I'll introduce in just a second. But
Okay.
I hope you guys are all ready, because hang on, we're going in. I'm wondering if that even had any volume. Did you guys hear anything on that came on? I'm curious because I didn't notice any volume bars going, just an animation. But anyway, see, it was a mute deal. I missed that setting on here, so I'll have to get that. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome our special guest tonight, someone that many of us know and love. He is the co-founder of Bigfoot Odyssey, an amazing show that covers the whole network of the Bigfoot spectrum, from documentaries, talking to eyewitnesses on site, on location, all over the nation, as well as having panel discussions called the Researchers Report. But I'd like to welcome Mr. Kerry Arnold to the portal. Welcome, sir.
All right. Nice to be here, man. Very honored. Quite honored.
We are honored to have you. I have to tell you kind of the background of this. You and I have come to know each other and become friends, and it's been a fantastic opportunity to, wrap our heads around different things and talk and compare notes, and it's been really cool. But I found your show probably, 8 months ago, 9, maybe 10 months ago, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I just stumbled onto it just doing a normal Bigfoot search, and I turned it on, and I was absolutely mesmerized. It was one of your documentaries. You guys were out there talking, and it was just this really cool experience, just really well done, really amazing quality production, and the material was absolutely informative and incredible. And I was hooked, and I've been hooked ever since. You guys really do a phenomenal job over there.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I think we get lucky, with our guests. And, 8 months ago, while we were brand new, we hadn't even hit our stride really good then. Those, to me, those first 5, maybe 6, or I'd say first 4 were, the editing skills hadn't developed quite that well just yet. So,
right.
Come quite a long way since then. Actually filmed our first episode in September of 2017 and didn't put it out till March of 2018. That tells you anything.
Okay.
I had never edited 1 second of film before in my life. and when we decided to do it, and I talked to Linda, I said, look, we're going to bust into the savings, and we're going to go all out. We're going to do this. We're not going to do it halfway. We're going to be traveling, and we're going to try to put out something the best we possibly can. So we spent a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say how much, but it was there in the 5 digits. Lower. 5 digits. And I bought all the equipment and found people that wanted to tell their story, their odyssey, if you will. And there's a reason we call it Bigfoot Odyssey. It's not because we travel. It's us telling someone else's full story. So it's not just an encounter. It's of the whole experience, your whole ride. An Odyssey, according to Homer, the Odyssey is a journey dotted with notable experiences. So it was important for us to have that be a part of the premise for the show, and because no one else was doing it, we wanted to do something different, and we just felt that it added a little bit more validity, being able to tell a whole story, all the experiences. Someone has something going on around their house, or researchers mostly have the close encounters or the experiences, or it's a close encounter that that caused them to want to go out and actually look for it, which just blows me away. Why people want to go look at these things.
Well, yeah, and
baffles me.
It comes from an informed place for you, because this kind of all started with your own experience. Isn't that right?
It did. Many years prior, I had a pretty epic experience, an encounter, and the way it all happened and what happened to me after was what prompted us to do this. This is mostly psychological issues that I was having with it. In 1999, I had experienced a lot of loss. There was 3 friends I had grown up with. We were all born on the 6th day of the month.
Oh, wow.
So we all just kind of gravitated toward each other. Different months, but we camped out together and just grew up, and we're just really good friends. And actually all had the same tattoo. And 1999 was February. We lost the first one. He drowned.
Oh.
And then then a month later, lost another one, car wreck, 2:00 in the morning with his girlfriend. And then November, the end of the month, lost the other one. So I lost all 3 of my friends in the same time, plus both of my parents, my mother-in-law, my boss, the guy that worked opposite me at work. It was 9. I lost 9, made 9 funerals in 10 months.
Oh, man.
In February and November. And just, with losing all my friends and both my parents and in just that short period of time, it just, I didn't want to think it was doing anything to me. But, when they come that quick, you don't have time to get over one before the next one hits. And then the next one, they say they come in 3s. Well, they came in 3s 3 times that year for me. And it was a guy that I worked with. Excuse me. I just ate.
Oh, no worries.
A guy I worked with, and we weren't really good friends, but we were acquaintances. Was talking about his property that his grandfather had, and nobody ever hunted it. And the family all lived around it, but nobody ever hunted it. And I was like, well, hey man, I'd love to go up there and hunt it. So he fixed me up with his grandfather, and I talked to him, and we had a deal. He didn't ask for anything. He just said, go out there and make it your own. But I told him I could give him half of whatever I took out of there, and it's exactly what I did for 7 years. I made this place my own. It was 240 acres property, just perfect habitat.
Wow.
Everything lived there. Everything was just so full of deer. I remember the very first time I went deer hunting there. I was actually scouting. I had just gone off the road. I could still see my truck up the tree stand, and I counted 17 does, yearlings, and spikes walking, trotting right up under. I mean, not right up under me, but within 50 yards. Oh. So I knew it was going to be a really good spot. So I fixed up shooting houses and I camped out there all the time. I stayed out there. I put myself out there so much because I didn't want to be around other people. Right. I was so introverted and just feeling sorry for myself is what I was doing. That's, get down to the bones of it. I didn't want to, wasn't forming any new relationships. My wife at the time, she knew where I was. She didn't care. I actually lived about 45 minutes away from the place at the time. So I'd camp out there a lot. Excuse me.
Sure.
And, I remember it was, deer season of 2006, December. I was, getting some really good bucks on camera, but, they were coming in about 30 minutes after dark. So it was kind of too dark to see. So what I decided to do was go off down in the bottom where I knew they were, or I felt like I knew where they were bedding up, and try to catch them on their way there while it was still daylight. So I go off, and I hardly ever went back there. And I'm off. I probably was even off the property, possibly. But I'm down there, and I'm sitting in the tree stand. It's getting dark, and then just about the time I couldn't see anymore, turkeys got up to roost right beside me. And if you've never experienced that, it will scare you to death. Because, turkey wings are pretty loud, and there was a bunch of them. I couldn't tell you how many, but light bulb. Now I know there's turkeys in here, and I don't know where they are. I can set up a turkey hunt.
Sure.
Which I had tried to do once when I first went out there, but I wasn't much of a turkey hunter. I had turkey hunted, throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I found this nice area, this good cleared off spot, and it's up on a ridge. If you looked at it like it was a football field, you'd have east to west would be the end zones, and then north to south would be the sidelines. Well, the south sideline dropped off into a creek bottom. It's like a two-tier creek bottom, and then wrapped around that east and southeast end zone and kind of made a grade coming back up. And it was perfect. I had gotten, and it was probably half the size of a football field, but I walked all the way around it with fire, and I burned it to the middle, got it good and burned off, because turkeys like that stuff, new growth and seeds pop, and that. This was probably a month I had done that before I had actually gone out there to turkey hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So March rolls around, and it's probably not turkey season. For me, the only real season there was salt and pepper. So I didn't really observe. I was a bit of an outlaw, if you will. So this was March the 10th, 2007, and I go in. Sometimes I would drive my four-wheeler. I'd park at the house, unload my four-wheeler, and then I'd drive around the property to a road that came in the side. And sometimes I would go in about halfway and stop and get off. And sometimes I just park there in the front. This particular day, I parked in the front, and I walked my way back 800 yards. Scott actually measured it. Just about half a mile. So I walked back, and it was daylight. So it was probably 6:30. I was fully camoed out. I on Reconda net over my head. Had dark under my eyes. Just turkeys are not the smartest birds in the world, but if they see you, that's it. It's over. I mean, don't even blink.
Right.
And I set up. I had some gallberry bushes set up, and I had a little chair, my backpack, and I got all my little snacks and whatever out. And I wasn't hardcore hunting. I was just out there enjoying myself and hoping. But when I had this new shade, it's called a locate. It's probably about it's on the end. You get it down like
you're kind of breaking up.
It actually sounds like
we're just breaking up quite a bit here. If you can go back just a little bit.
Did you get camoed that part?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the camoed part, and then it started breaking. So. Okay.
Yeah, fully camoed out. Like I said, turkeys are not smart, but if they see you, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I get set up. I pull out all my calls. I have a locator call, which you shake, and it sounds like a turkey gobble. I had a reed in my mouth, a chirp, and I had a box call. And try to sound like as many turkeys as I can, and try to sound real sexy so I can get that, those gobblers to come in.
Sure.
And I'll probably call for the better part of 2 hours, and I didn't think much was going to happen, and then all of a sudden it did. And what I heard was jakes, young gobblers, and you can tell young gobblers because they don't finish it. They'll just kind of just a little bit, So I knew I had turkeys gobbling back at me, so I'm getting excited, and then probably about maybe 15 or 20 minutes, I can actually see turkeys 100 yards away, and they're just a ton of them. They're coming up this really wide game trail. I was sitting on the northwest end zone of the clearing, looking toward the southeast. Down that bottom, and there's a wide game trail, 3 or 4 feet wide, and I could see them coming up that, and I could see them coming all through the woods. So I'm getting excited. Turkeys are coming. We'll probably get maybe 20 yards from coming into the clearing, and see there's 5 or 6 in the front, and they look like young jakes. I don't see any long beards, and I didn't hear any gobbling at me.
I got one sitting next to me.
That's right.
I'm I'm the special kind of turkey.
Well, if you ever shave, what was that you said we had to call him? Don 5 o'clock
5
shadow.
o'clock shadow. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don goatees here with us.
Don Peach Fuzz is here joining us.
We sheared him like a sheep this afternoon.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry about that. I just had to throw that in. That was
That's
too easy.
okay. All right. Well, at any rate, I see these turkeys in the front, and all of them at the same time. They perk up, and they're looking down through the creek bottom. They're not looking my way, that I can tell. Heads pop up, and then gone. They just explode out of there. I mean, all of them. And that's when I could really tell how many it was, and it was at least 30.
Jeez.
It could have been more than that, but it wasn't any less than that. It was so many turkeys. And I'm disgusted. And it took a minute or so for them to get completely gone where I couldn't hear them anymore. Because like I said, turkeys flapping their wings through the woods is very loud.
Sure. Yeah.
And so they're gone, and I'm just, no way they saw me. This is what I'm thinking, But just about the time that I couldn't hear them anymore, I could hear what sounded like somebody walking through that creek bottom, straight across from me, down that south end zone, in that bottom, walking west to east.
Yeah.
So I stood up, trying to see who it was. And at first I didn't see anybody, but I could still hear walking, and it was distinctive bipedal walking. Now, deer can sound like that. If they're trotting, they can sound like bipedal. You can't hear the four.
Oh.
But it wasn't that fast. So I'm thinking, it's got to be somebody. And I'm looking, and lo and behold, is somebody. It's a black guy. And because I could see just about from top of the shoulders up. And it made perfect sense. The property I was on belonged to a black family. Everybody around there, the whole neighborhood, his sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, everybody around there. There was an African-American little community. And so I'm like, it's one of them in my mind. And I'm getting glimpses of him. And he's walking through the thickest stuff out there. What are you doing? This is what I'm thinking. So I'm upset because obviously he scared the turkeys off. There's no doubt in my mind that's what happened. I didn't do it. He did it. But he's not coming up. He's walking, and he would come up that grade, I think, and he would snap his head and look at me. And then he would look back where he's going. He'd snap his head and look. And when I first saw him and he gotten disgusted, there was a huge pine tree behind me, and I plopped my back against that pine tree, and I put my right foot up on it, and I had a Benelli 3.5-inch 12-gauge automatic with a turkey barrel, 28-inch barrel, with high brass number 4 turkey shot. And I had put it was all black, all synthetic. I had gun down to my left and my hand up over the butt like a boat paddle, a non-aggressive, I won't shoot at you, don't shoot at me position. Well, so I'm like this, and I'm listening to it, can hear him walking, and he comes up and he's snapping his head and look at me, and so I wave my hand. Hey, all right, yeah, I'm right here, don't shoot. And I knew he saw me, and he didn't look quite right, but it's still, I have no frame of reference for anything else. So it looks like he turns and walks away. I think I can't see him, but I can still hear him, and then comes around this point and back up the southeast end zone. And now I can see him coming straight toward me. He's coming out. Now I'm thinking about what I'm gonna say to him because I'm upset. I'm pretty angry. This is going on, and all the time and effort I'd put into this for months. And I'm watching him, and what I can see, it looks like he's wearing camouflage, like maybe a camouflage vest, because it looked like the armor dark. There was something here on his body, and I'm thinking it looks like I've said this 100 times, a fat black dude with a bunch of clothes on, like he had on coveralls, but it was layered up. But I mean, like a 400-pound dude, heavy set guy. And I see this. I said, well, now she's out here hunting. Now I'm really upset. So I'm fuming at what I'm going to say to him, because whether they're property or not, they knew I hunted out there, and somebody needs to tell me, because this is how people get shot.
Yeah.
These are some of the things that are going through my head. He doesn't look quite right. I'm about to find out what's going on. He's going to be face to face with me. So there's two pine trees just down that grade, about 10-inch pine trees, just a couple of feet apart. And he gets 10 feet from them, and I see him reach his hand out to grab for the tree. And I can see the skin on the inside of his arm and the hair hanging down. I didn't know what I was looking at until later, but it was bizarre. I was like, what's he wearing? This doesn't look right. But that's what I was looking at, was that hair and long hair coming down off of his hand.
Right.
And he grabs that tree and he pulls himself, right up to it. And he had his hand on the back side of this tree. I think I couldn't see his hand wrapped around this. I think he had his hand on the back side of the tree. And he stood up and squared up. And when he squared up, he got so big, so much bigger than what he looked like walking up. And he's standing, a good 2 feet down this grade. I'm 6'4", about 250. And he was still a little bit taller than me, I think, standing down that grade. So it was at least 6.5, 7 foot tall. He was taller than me anyway. I don't think it was no 8-footer. But still doesn't dawn on me that this is anything other than a guy. But there's a moment of transition there, because nothing had happened yet. Mm-hmm. It took probably a couple of seconds before he opened his mouth. But it was in that time that I thought I knew what it was. I thought I knew this. Is this a Sasquatch? And then he opens his mouth and starts making the most ungodly sound. It sounded like 3 sets of vocal cords. Ooh. And it was, and I'll try to do it, but but it was that. It was such a demonic, nasty sound, and he was definitely, I won't say definitely, I believe he was trying to talk to me, like griping at me, bitching at me about something I was doing.
About scaring his turkeys.
I knew it. Well, whatever. But I knew exactly what it was then, This is a Sasquatch. This is what everybody's been seeing in the woods. Wow. And I don't want to say that I didn't believe in Sasquatch before, but it was never really a thought, Right. If Sasquatch is real, it's reserved for the Pacific Northwest, it's their problem.
Yeah.
Never would I dreamed in 1,000 years that something like that would have been around there.
Right.
But here he is standing right there, and it's such disbelief that you kind of waffle back and forth from, is this a dude? Is this somebody messing with me, and gonna get shot? And then, obviously I snapped back from it once he opened his mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm like this, and I just, as soon as he did that, I got this, like, I describe it as a bucket of cold water being poured over your head. Mm-hmm. Just a washed over. I could feel the blood rush from my face.
Yeah.
Because he was that terrifying. I was completely and totally petrified. And I'm watching him gripe at me. And then just as fast as everything happens, just a couple of seconds, I'm still like this with the gun. And I'll use my hand down and get my hand on the grip, just to be ready, because I think something's about to happen here. This is just the feeling that I got from it. Well, as soon as I moved my hand and just going down, he lost it. He started rocking back and forth. He probably rocked maybe 2 or 3 times, and then toward me with what I call a huff. It wasn't a yell. It was just like a very abrupt, like, no, you're not putting your hand on that gun. But it was so powerful. It was like standing in front of a big speaker. You get that percussion wave. And I'm 80 feet away from this thing. And so I felt it. It shook me. It shook my spine, my organs. And when it hit me, it startled me to the point where I shook. I think that was enough for me to move, because I don't think I could have moved before then. I was just that stuck in place. Right. I took about 4 steps to my right into that clearing and got ready. Had the safety off, and I still didn't point the gun at him. And now that I'm out from under the tree, the pine tree had some low limbs on it, so I couldn't see the top of the tree he's holding on to. Now I can really see it, and it's whipping. It's the 3 of us couldn't have done what he was doing to this tree, and I don't think he was trying to shake it. It was just he's rocking back and forth and holding on to it. It was just like incidental, but it's whipping, and that scared me.
Yeah.
Because that power. When you see one of these creatures, you know immediately how it's got everything over you.
Yeah.
You just know it. You feel it, and I'm thinking, these are probably my last moments because I've got turkey shot.
Yeah.
Which is nothing really to sneeze at close distance. I could probably killed him. I could probably shot him in the head and killed him. But he was going to have to get close. Mm-hmm. And I was afraid that's exactly what was going to happen.
Right.
But he probably maybe rocked just a couple more times, and he stopped and showed all of his teeth and stuck his tongue out. He stuck his tongue straight out, just like straight out through his teeth. White, very white teeth. And I don't know, maybe his teeth weren't that white. In contrast to his face was black. I mean, like grease paint black. And his skin under his hair was a lot lighter. Wow. Like a dark gray. And what I thought was camouflage looked like mud. It was mud all over his right side for sure, which is what made me think it was a vest, I guess, is the way I saw it.
Sure.
And sticks and twigs and leaves, and I mean, he was just a mess. And he put his tongue back in and went back to making that sound, and I'm just standing here, waiting, because I know. And some of the things that I remember thinking, well, where am I going to shoot him? Because I've got 3 shots, and to be such an outlaw, I don't know why I had the plug in, but I did. Normally I would just take the plug out and load up, 5, 4, and 4 plus 1. But I didn't. I had plug-ins. I knew I had 3 shots, but I had a pocket full. Mm-hmm. So I was like, just shoot it 3 times really quick and reload while I'm running. This is what I think's going to happen. And he stopped complaining, whatever he was doing. He took his right hand off of that tree. He turned his body to the right, and he cocked his head this way, looking down his nose. Never took his eyes off me. He took about maybe 3 or 4 steps, big steps, toward that game trail, and then turned and walked dead away from me through the thickest stuff out there. It was downhill into the bottom. Wow. And I just stood there. I was still standing there. I didn't want to move, and I kept looking to my left, thinking, I don't know why I was looking to my left. Something kept telling me to look to my left because I was still close to some pretty thick stuff right there. Mm-hmm. Everything else was out in the open. And he's walking away, and then probably got down that grade a good 50, 60 feet, and that's when he yelled. And he yelled. It wasn't like the Finding Bigfoot yell. It wasn't the, that. It was like a baboon. Mm. It was fast and abrupt and so loud. It was like a buildup. Wow! And just that, I describe it like it's a whip. Mm-hmm. Like it's coming through, and then that whip cracks. And it was, after that, there was not a sound in the woods. I mean, I remember hearing the wind a little bit. Mm-hmm. It was just completely dead silent. And I'm still standing there because I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to walk away and him knowing he's just right there behind me. Right. I guess is why I didn't.
Sure.
But, yeah. Just within maybe 10 or 15 seconds later, I get this feeling. I can actually feel myself breathing now. Not that I don't think I was breathing before. I didn't notice it.
Right.
And I wasn't taking like fast breaths or anything. I was breathing really long and deep, and I got this tunnel vision, like heat vision. Yeah. Out on the periphery, which Linda told me later was adrenaline. When you get an overload of adrenaline, that's what happens. Oh. Well, that's exactly what happened. And I got that feeling, and I was like, okay, time to go. I turned around, I grabbed my backpack, and left everything else there. Calls, chair, everything. And started walking out. And for a moment, I thought for a second that I would pull the plug and put 2 more in it, but I didn't want to get caught in that position. So I took 3 out of my pocket and put them in my hand, and I walked out. And I didn't want to run because I didn't want, if it was a predatory instinct or anything, I didn't want to run. But I would walk really fast, real quick steps, go probably 50, 60 feet, and I would stop and listen. Because, a big cat will follow you through the woods. and you can tell because you just stop real quick and you'll hear them take a couple more steps.
Sure.
So I did that the whole way out. I can't tell you how many times I stopped. I don't really remember a whole lot of the walk out except for one place. And this place, this bottomy area that water flowed through, I would always get creeped out there. I mean, every single time. Early in the morning, fog would settle in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get this creepy feeling there, and then I'd get past it, and then everything would be fine. But I got it a lot. I wouldn't say every time, but always, if I ever got creeped out, it was in that one spot. And it was probably halfway out. And all these things are coming back to me, that had happened, these weird things that happened to me for 7 years out there that I had always attributed to being something else.
Right.
And I'm like, when this happened, that must have been them. And, and it's dawning on me that these things have been out here the entire time. And I'm still not sure I'm going to make it out. Because one of the things I was thinking was, man, people see these things all the time. They just don't live to tell about it.
Right.
That this happened.
Yeah.
And so I still, no pun intended, I'm not out of the wood yet. So I'm thinking they're standing, they're waiting for me in this place. So I'm ready, but I get to this place, and fortunately enough, they weren't there. A lot of foxhole praying on the way out. Lord, I promise you, I will never kill another living creature if I just get out of here. Things like that.
Oh, sure.
Well, the road curves and goes up. And that's where my 4-wheeler's parked. It's the entrance to the lease.
Mm-hmm.
So I make the turn. I'm walking up the hill, and it starts to open up, and I'm feeling better about actually making it out. And 200 feet, I can see my 4-wheeler. A view of heaven from a seat in hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm feeling good. I'm gonna make it out. And I stopped. And I turned around. And I mean, as soon as I turned around, like 2 seconds, maybe out past the curve, off in the thick stuff, 50, 60 yards, a tree break, like a very obvious, loud, fresh, that crackle pop tree break, that pow,
Wow.
And as soon as I heard that, that's when I ran. And I got on my 4-wheeler, and I think one of the scariest, most terrifying parts of it was the way I had parked my 4-wheeler. I couldn't go forward. I had to back out toward this thing, then go forward and get out. And I didn't want to do it because I thought about just going to the road maybe and walking. Mm-hmm. But I got on my 4-wheeler and I backed it out and then hauled butt up to the house. I remember pushing the 4-wheeler up beside the house where I would normally load it on my truck. And I got out and I got in my truck and I grabbed my 7 mag out of the back seat and I made sure it was loaded, and I locked all the doors, and sat there and watched the tree line behind the house for maybe 20 minutes. Couldn't drive. No way I could drive. But sitting there thinking about all these things that had happened to me while I was out there.
Right.
And things that the landowner had said to me that I didn't pick up on. I would bring the processed meat to him, and it was either him or his daughter were the only two I ever really dealt with. And they never had any animals. No dogs, no cats, pigs, chickens, nothing like that. I mean, this is out in the country.
Right.
And he was an old preacher. I think he was 79 maybe at the time. I think he only lived a few more years.
Uh-huh.
But, and that was one thing I remember him telling me, we just can't keep animals around here. Well,
yeah.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
You got family of bugs living on your property.
Wow. But
the knocking, I would hear knocking constantly. As soon as I get off my 4-wheeler, I would hear it. And it sounded close, but the house is, maybe 1,000 yards away through the woods. Well, they're up there beating on something or building something, and it's just echoing through the woods. Maybe I didn't think that much of it. It just sounded like hammering, but it was and heavy hits, pow, 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 pow. 4 or 5 hits, and then that would be it. And I remember hearing that at 2-3 o'clock in the morning camping. I'd hear it way off, 300-400 yards away, pow, pow, pow.
Wow.
And then 200 yards in the other direction, hearing it. And then my mind, and this is how I rationalize things. This is a buck. It's a buck. and he's hitting on some bamboo. But, you know, realistically, a buck's going to rattle on anything. It's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to rattle. You know, this has rhythm. You know, like these loud hits, and no doubt it was them. But there were so many things that happened to me out there before I had seen this thing that that should have clued me in. Really, if I would have been even remotely aware, it would have.
Right.
And that's part of why we do what we do now. We want people to be aware.
Right.
That's incredible. That's got to be it's got to be just tattooed in your psyche. Like that's something you never get to leave that moment. Like you're always in that moment for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Never went back to the woods again.
Yeah.
Sold all my stuff. Sold my 4-wheeler to my brother, actually.
Wow.
He had to go pick it up.
Now that's
I didn't fish. I didn't fish for years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I suppose you just stick with civilization from then on. Now, you really, it's one of those situations where you got to feel like you're going to be dying at any moment. Like you were saying, what are you confronting? What's around the corner? And all of these puzzle pieces falling into place all of a sudden. It's just that not only was the situation overwhelming, but then once you pieced all the history that you'd been experiencing in it, all of a sudden it's just like, oh my God, they were always there.
Right.
That is just a lot to process. Wow.
And, you know, and you get those, I call them moments of sudden realization. And I think that's, if anybody is going to be in this, or most of the people that are eyeballs deep in the Sasquatch subject and actually doing something with it, they've got a show, a program, they interview people, they do active research. I believe most of them have had that. And it's yeah, and I think it's important, because I think that's part of what drives someone in the subject, is having those, not just seeing it, but, you know, if you do see it, even if you get a glimpse, you know, it's over. You don't have the luxury of believing in this thing anymore, because now you know. You know it's real, and then everything else starts to make sense that you rationalized away. And you know, it really messed me up for a long time, because I didn't know anything about them. You know, I treated it like it was a near-death experience. That I had really escaped with my life. And there's, you know, even if I wanted to go back in the woods, I couldn't hunt anymore. I mean, how was I going? I don't know if you've ever squirrel hunted before.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you ever see a snake while you're squirrel hunting?
I saw not. I can't say that I did. No, I don't think so.
Well, if you do, you're not squirrel hunting anymore. You're snake hunting. You know.
Yeah.
Good point.
You're looking down. You're looking down.
Yeah.
You're not looking up anymore. So it's that kind of that same thing.
Sure.
How could I go deer hunting?
Right.
Because I wouldn't be focused on the deer. I'd be wondering where are these things watching me from.
Right.
And I certainly couldn't go back to that place again. There's no way. And but, you know, I'd gone back 11 years later and talked to the son who owns everything now, Daniel, and he saw it when he was 15.
Really?
Saw one. Yeah. Thought it was he told his mom and dad he saw a gorilla.
Ew.
Jeez.
Yeah, a really tall gorilla.
That's amazing.
And I could see that. But this looked like a guy. I sent you some pictures
Yes, you
of
did.
one that was taken.
Yep.
If you want to throw those up there.
Yeah, just give me 1 second here.
We've been busy listening. Totally forgot about the pictures.
Yeah, I know. It's like, okay, so it's loading.
But these are
Yep, it's up on the
pictures.
screen now.
Pictures were taken by a guy in Brooksville, Florida. His name's Albert Burlingame. And as soon as I saw it, one is the original still, and then the other is an enhanced version. And you can see that thing leaning out there, just looking at him. You know, that's not pareidolia. You know, leaves don't make that shape. That
Right.
is a Sasquatch. And, you know, put a little context to it. There was a ton of knocking and yelling, like loud whoops going on when he did this, when he videoed this. And he's about 50 feet away. That's the unenhanced version. You can't see it that well, but that's right at 6 feet. So I think he's kneeling down there. But that is exactly what I saw. And if you see it, you can see why I thought this was a guy.
Right.
Hooded nose, really black face.
Yeah.
Looks like kind of an afro hairdo. but that's almost identical to what I had seen. And it doesn't. He didn't really have. Wasn't he had muscles, but it wasn't like Schwarzeneggered up.
Yeah.
He was more like a barrel-shaped body, straight up and down. Probably at least 500 pounder.
Wow.
A very large individual, huge, wide, very wide mouth, nose like Scottie Pippen. Looks that kind of point that kind of comes down a little bit. Wasn't extremely wide, dark eyes, like he had on really dark, wraparound sunglasses. But huge cheeks, very exaggerated features. No forehead. His hairline started here, but the way his brow ridge was shaped, it just looked like he was maybe that was because he was angry. He was very angry. He was upset at something I had done. And the reason I believe he even came out on me is because I think they already thought I knew they were there.
Oh, sure.
There were so many things that had happened years prior. I can remember going to this one particular place, and I would take a little can call, Supremos Dobleeds. You turn it over, and it's bleh, Sound like a goat, but my nose is itching so bad.
Oh, that's all
I
right.
trim my mustache. But every time I would get up that tree, and I knew they would come. They were coming through there. It was a good place to hunt. Obviously, I think they were probably hunting there too. But I would hit that can just a couple of times, and it would sound like a truck was coming through the woods. I mean, it happened a lot. It happened so much. Well, what it would do, limbs popping, bushes shaking. I mean, just whatever it was coming. And it would get to the edge of this thick about 50 yards away, and then that was it. I didn't hear anything else. And it happened at least a dozen times. It happened so much that I knew once I heard this, whatever this was, I wasn't going to get to see it. In my mind, it's a buck.
Right.
And he's outsmarting me. He's the smartest buck I ever ran into. I just can't nail him down. But I think they were trying to run me out of there then. And I was just too stupid to realize what was going on. But I can remember several times camping out. I would camp there for 4 or 5 days by myself during deer season because I live 45 minutes away, and I would hunt until dark. So there's no point in me going home and then trying to make it back at daylight. So I would just sleep in my truck. I'd build a fire sometimes. Sometimes if I knew I was going to stay for a few days, I'd bring it. And I had this one little camping spot. And I can remember sitting there one night, and the only person that knew I was out there, that knew exactly where I was my friend that hooked me up with his grandfather.
Oh.
And I heard clearly it was an owl, but it was clearly a person trying to sound like an owl because it didn't have that it didn't have that trill to it.
Right.
It was just
and that
and I'm like, okay. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something to the effect of, okay, I hear you. You might as well come on out. I know that's you. I might even said his name. And then some time goes by, nothing comes out, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe it was an owl. And then behind me, just 50 feet behind me, I heard. You ever heard a fox yip?
Yep.
It's loud and high pitched.
Yeah.
But it was definitely the dude. Yep, doing that because you can hear that. Yep. No, that's you. You might as well come on out. It never did. So I think that was them maybe communicating with each other, but just the thought of them watching me while I was there.
Right.
Yeah.
So and that comes up awful lot.
I remember one. Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that comes up an awful lot. People talking about the robotic owls and the mimic sounds that aren't quite right. People talk about that all the time in research that they can tell when they're close because they hear those who owls that aren't quite right. Yeah. So, and of course the First Nations have always called them the great mimics or the ventriloquists or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I don't, in hearing those things later, that's just part of that epiphany, it's those introspective moments of realization.
Right.
It hits you. That was them. I can remember being in one of my shooting houses in the front, and the house is like I said, about 1,000 yards down and then up the hill to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm facing, got a long 150-yard, path to shoot. And there's that creek bottom, the very creek bottom is down there ahead of me. And it's probably 3 o'clock in the evening,
Mm-hmm.
and I can hear kids screaming at each other, hollering, playing down there in the creek.
Jeez.
Blah, 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 whatever. Well, I can't shoot that way now.
Right.
So I get out and I'll walk down there, tell them to get their butt back up to the house. And there's nothing. Nobody. Once I get down there, I don't even hear kids playing up at the house now.
Mm-hmm.
And that always struck me. That probably happened 2 years before I'd actually gotten to see what it was. But I'm pretty sure I walked up in the middle of them one night. I'd 5 years in, I was so arrogant. You couldn't tell me anything. I knew this place like the back of my hand. And as far as I was concerned,
Mm-hmm.
and I was down off in the bottom again, in the back. One of the few times I went, and got dark on me, and I got lost. Straight up, I just missed my trail. I got lost, and I don't care who you are, in the woods at night, and it was the worst time to get lost. It was February. It was mist and rain, so there's no stars, no moon. I can't hear traffic or anything. So I'm, every direction you look is all the same. So you don't know which way you're pointed. And but that was my own fault, because even if I'd had somebody with me that said, "Oh, I think we need to go this way," I would have been, "I got this."
Right.
Sure.
Just follow me.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then 10 hours later, we're coming out of the woods. But I found a grade, and I was like, okay, if I find the creek bottom, I can make it out. I know the creek goes pretty close to behind the house. And so I'm tromping through, and I've got my rifle on my shoulder, and I've got a pretty bright lights, the mag lights before LED,
Mm-hmm.
the big,
Oh, sure.
huge mag lights.
Yep.
And I'm tromping through, and I don't know if I shine my light on them, but I'm in the creek bed, and up either side of me, just this commotion. I mean, leaves and big bodies moving. And I could hear this this breathy type of grunt. Well, hogs. It's hogs. Find a tree to get up really quick, But they didn't leave. They didn't like to go away. They went straight behind me, 30, 40 feet, and stopped. And then the reason I remember this is because when I heard them stop, I was like, they're coming back. Now, and there was no tree small enough for me to just shimmy up real quick. So I think I was maybe turned, but I never saw anything, never shined a light. But I remembered hearing the walking, the steps, the
Right.
going away from me, which I thought was kind of weird at the time, I suppose. But, I stood there for a few more minutes, and they weren't coming back. Strange that I didn't hear them fade away.
Right. Right.
They just stopped. Wow. This is why I think it was them. I think it was the whole family. And up either side, because big bodies, the breathy grunting that didn't really sound like hogs, but I mean, like I said, when you don't have a frame of reference for these things, your brain takes you to the closest thing,
right.
And that's exactly what it did. Wow. And I think about 6 hours later, I finally made it out of there.
Oh,
and
wow.
actually came back somehow. But didn't think much. When I told the story, that's what I told. Man, I walked up in the middle of a bunch of hogs. It scared me to death. I thought I was dead. Yeah. But I think that was them. Yeah. I would hear talking quite often. I could hear voices, and houses were far enough away. If anybody was outside talking, I couldn't hear them. But I'm thinking, okay, somebody's coming into the woods. They're walking down the road or found a trail or something, and they're sitting there talking to each other. So I would yell at them. I can remember doing this a couple times. Hey, I'm hunting in here. I have a gun. You're going to get shot,
right.
Idiot. And then it would stop, and then that would be it. And I would have things thrown at me. Wow. I can remember cutting through. There was a cut through from the main road through the pine trees. So the pine trees are on the hills, and then deciduous trees all in the bottoms.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember walking through there one day, because instead of walking all the way around, I would just cut through. And something ricochet off a tree and hit the ground. Looking up, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see anything. I took a few more steps. Something else hit. I don't know what it was. Could have been a pine cone or whatever. Now it's a squirrel. It's a red squirrel. And, red squirrels are pretty slick. They'll get on the other side of the tree from you so you can't see them. And that probably happened another 4 or 5 times the whole way out through there. But I think they were tossing stuff at me then. But so many things like that, just little things that, if I'd have actually, like I said, if I would have been aware,
right,
even remotely,
right,
for my brain to just go there, I think I would have known. But I never found a track, and I looked for tracks, deer tracks, but I never saw footprints or a tree break or structure that I would think was out of the ordinary. Of course, when you're not looking for those things, you're just gonna think it's dead ball.
Right. No, that's incredible. Even in looking at the pictures, and I find this incredibly amazing, is that pulling up the pictures and seeing, when you first glance at it, it's so easy to miss, even though it's right in the center of the freaking frame, and even though the face is looking right at you, it's like they are so naturally adept, and they naturally blend so much that it's a struggle, even though this isn't heavy foliage. But he's still so hard to pick out from behind that. It's no wonder why people don't see them, and probably walk right by them all the time. Just that.
Well, he never saw him.
He
never saw him, and he told me, he said, I was walking in that direction, and it's just 2 frames where you actually can see this thing good, and I think that's the clearest one.
Wow.
And he had his camera pointed that way, and then he just turned and went to the right.
Wow.
Of course, he said, I don't know why I didn't keep going. I don't know why I didn't keep going straight. He just didn't. And I think that makes you think crazy things.
Oh yeah.
When you hear something like that. Did he do something to him to make him turn and go the other way?
Right.
But look at that. That's exactly what I saw. When I saw this picture, I felt so because I'd never seen a picture that looked like what I had seen. People think these things look like apes, and they just don't. They look like people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's no hair on their face. The one that I saw, anyway. He didn't have any hair on his face at all. And it's really sparse looking hair on his body, but it was thick on his shoulders and really, like I said, thin. I could see the skin on the inside of his arm, pretty well. And 4 or 5 inch hair hanging down. But it was 8 or 10 inches coming off of his hand.
Wow.
So I don't know what is up with that.
Right. Now, as you were telling your story, something had occurred to me, and this is something just through the years, hearing stories of people witnessing Bigfoot and Sasquatch, whatever, is that oftentimes they're described as the hair being like beautiful, like it's been combed and brushed, and like it's well maintained. I hear so many stories like that. But then you were talking about how this one had sticks and litter and mud and stuff, and it occurred to me, is it possible that they treat their coat like a ghillie suit, like snipers? They will go out and they will decorate their ghillie suits with the local fauna and stuff, or the leaves, not the fauna. They don't have like bodies on them, but they got, do they pick up they pick up leaves and stuff and stick it into their ghillie suits so that they blend in with that surroundings? Could that potentially be what these Sasquatch do in essence, is to pick up debris and litter and put it in their hair so they really blend in with their surroundings?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. And, in my 12 years of studying this thing, what appears to be an immutable characteristic is hide. They don't just hide from us, they hide from everything.
Right.
Even in the dark. They think about a sentient being that does not want to be discovered. They don't want to be found out. They don't want you to know that they're there. That's probably the most obvious thing in researching this thing, that this is how they all are. We'd have a hell of a lot better evidence of them if it wasn't this way.
Right.
And then, so that makes a lot of sense. Something that's predisposed to hiding, and to me, this answers the body argument.
Sure.
Oh, why would an intelligent creature that does not want to be found out leave one of their dead around for us to find?
Right.
Good point.
They do something with them, and science will tell you there's no type specimen when we've been digging them out of the ground for 200 years. These hominid skulls, see, with the heavy brow and the long upper lip and the prognatho mouth.
Mm-hmm.
That's them.
Yeah.
It's not us. That's these things.
Yep. No, I agree. I think that they are so intelligent and they are so adept and cunning in their environment. And it is their environment. We just intrude on it once in a great while, and that's, you hear these stories of, people will say, I've been in the woods my whole life. Well, no, you went out on weekends and in seasons and you trumped around the woods,
right,
but you don't live there. No, it's like the difference between, you're going into your living room versus you going to, a mall. You might know where some things are, you might not, but your living room. Even if a pot is out of place in your living room, boom, it just triggers. Well,
not only that,
Sure.
we're very clumsy and obnoxious species in the woods.
Yeah, we are.
We're not quite, especially even if you're trying to slip through there, we still do the same thing.
Right.
Park your truck in the same place. You walk in the same way. You go to the same shooting house. You go to the same stand. It's your area. Your easy pattern. Yeah. I could hide from somebody.
Right.
A hunter. And then, because I've heard the same thing. This argument. I hunted my entire life. I ain't never seen. Me too. Yeah. Me too. I was 34 years old. I'd hunted since I was 5. Mm-hmm. I'd lived in the woods as much as possible. I had 2 wonderful parents. My father kept me in the woods. My mother kept me, my nose in the books and my hands on the piano. Mm-hmm. And I love them to death for doing me that way. Yeah. Even though I was forced out of the woods, and I'm trying to make my way back to it now. I'm just not comfortable. It's not a fear thing so much. I don't think anything's going to attack me.
Sure.
I'm just not comfortable.
Well,
and I know it's psychosomatic. I know it is. And I've told myself I want to just say, don't be that way. Just go out there and don't. And I tried it once and it didn't work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and granted, the pile, the mountain of gravity that just hit you is, of course, going to impact you for the lifetime. But, I really have to take my hat off to you that in light of that, you've made this such a passion and such a pursuit, and you go around and in essence, you're educating all of us by talking to these people who are having these experiences. You go on location, you show these, these amazing breaks and situations. And as you're in those locations, it's got to be tough for you, right?
Well, as long as I've got the camera and I have a focus, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm with somebody else, and I've got a 45, with Defender ammo. That stuff don't ricochet. It explodes when it hits. Oh, so, and I got 39 shots. So I'm that it may be a false sense of security, but I don't care what anybody says. I think you can kill these things. Mm-hmm. You shoot one of them in the head and he's gonna die, especially with a gun that'll shoot through an engine block.
Right.
I don't think their bones are that robust and heavy enough that they're going to stop this bullet. So I think you can kill them. I think it'd be a mistake to shoot and kill one, just maybe because of the others. But I digress. Completely lost my train of thought.
That's all right. You're right at home here. That happens on the portal all the time.
Where am I right now? Okay.
Welcome to the Paranormal Portal.
But no, I had so much. You might as well, I guess, call it PTSD.
Sure.
I didn't like calling it that because I didn't want to, disrespect people that have been in war, because I haven't. Mm-hmm. But that's what it was. To the point where, I could be driving down the road and just look off into the woods and get that washed over feeling. I had really bad nightmares. As far as Bigfoot Odyssey is concerned, you can thank Linda Joyce Arnold for that. Mm-hmm. And my wife, she's the one that made us. She made me. She said, "You've got to do something. You got to face it." And so I tried researching. I got out, met with the Crypto Reality crew. I was a part of their group for months. in South Florida, and I went out with them, and I never was comfortable. We had these things all around us. I've smelled them. I actually got another glimpse of one. One of the times I went back, he stepped out on the trail, just a big tall guy, 60 yards down from us. Didn't have a camera going, nothing. Just stepped out right back in the woods. I didn't want to go down there.
Wow.
Right.
But
Wow.
yeah, so I'm pretty sure that was another one. I heard them. That and that's what it sounds like, and they're just
Wow.
and it's so South Florida is so thick, the palmettos, you can't see 6 feet in front of you, you can't see them.
Right.
And this is 30, 40 feet away, and then you hear these things, and you smell this strong urine and old stale dish rag smell, and nothing else smells like that. You can get a skunky smell every now and then, and I heard somebody made a point about the skunk smell.
Okay.
That they will take skunks and rub it on themselves.
Oh.
And you think about that.
Sure.
Think about that for
Makes
a second.
sense.
If you're in the woods and you smell a skunk, are you going to go looking for it?
Right. Good point. And,
Yeah.
and what a
So-
great way to camouflage their scent. I mean, it's kind of like humans with the doe urine and whatever.
Yeah.
That stuff is rancid too. But
You ever have problems with things sticking to your fur? No, not at all. Thanks.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, Don. No, it's amazing, and I think that my hat is off to you, because I think. Hell, I would have taken up knitting after being through what you went through.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
Here's my new quilt.
Changed everything.
Someone asked a question earlier in the chat, and one of them asked, did you smell any odd smells? And you just answered that question, urine and dirty dish rags and skunks. But another question that came up is, and I think you may have mentioned it, but asked, do you think they were just letting you know that they were there as well? And maybe one of your actions may have caused this this confrontational portion of it.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes any sense. I mean, I'd never turkey hunted before then, except for the once, and it was kind of a half-hearted attempt. But just really getting into and to turkey hunt, and then here's all these turkeys coming. I think that might have had something to do with it. The fact that I didn't see any big gobblers. Maybe they kill the big gobblers and leave the hens for. I mean, eggs are a good source of nutrition for anything.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
But this, maybe it was just the amount of turkeys. I thought about that. But the one time I know for sure that I got interaction or real action out of them was when I was imitating.
When you were what?
When I was doing the can call.
Oh, okay.
I was doing a call.
Right.
Had the can call with the deer, crashing through the wood, I'm coming. Like a truck without a motor, just tearing. I mean, and bucks don't snap limbs.
Right.
They just don't do it. They might shake a bush or something, but even a pissed off buck is not going to break limbs. And you can hear just cracking big limbs, but still in my head, that's all it could be. And then the one time I was calling the turkeys, he comes out like, no, you're not doing this.
Wow.
Plus, I was doing something different. I was doing something different that I didn't normally do.
Oh.
I'm hunting past deer season now. I'm on into March out there hunting, when I would normally just either be out there shooting lanes or camping out or spend a lot of time out there tracking through that place. I still remember it like it's the back of my hand, unless it gets dark on me, and then I'll probably get lost.
Right.
Wow. Now, do you suppose when they were charging, like you're doing that can call, what was occurring to me is that perhaps they were thinking, ooh, there's one over here, and they're busting through the brush, but then they caught sight of you before they actually blew through the cover, and maybe that's why they
Possibly.
stopped.
But I don't think there was a time that I set one foot in there that they didn't know it.
Right. Okay.
And-
That's probably true.
And that the creepy place, the place I always got creeped out in.
Yeah.
It was a low area. It was the bottom of a hill,
Right.
and water ran through it. So there was no undergrowth. You could see for 100 yards either direction through the pines there. So what I think they were doing is I would park my four-wheeler, get off, and I'd hear the knocking. bow, bow, bow. So I think they were signaling everybody else, here it comes.
Right.
Get in position. And I think they would sit where they could see that long distance through there at me and watch me come through there.
Right.
And maybe it was all those eyes on me that creeped me out so much.
Right.
Right. No, go
That's
ahead.
just what I think.
Well, I was just thinking because I was working on one of our older episodes earlier today, and it just happened to be Bear. I was Jim King the Bear. I was working on one of those, breaking it down, doing some work on it, and he was telling a story kind of similar to this about when he first saw one, and he had to go, it was down this trail, and he was going to go into this thick grove of growth. And it was down by a water, and he said he crawled in and he had to crawl back a couple times, and he found what he said was a Bigfoot kind of on its knees, crouched down on its knees, like in a fetal position, and like sleeping like a cat. You know how a cat will put hunch down and then put its feet down and then put its nose between its paws.
Yeah.
And he said once the creature or the whatever you want to call it, the Bigfoot or the Sasquatch, heard him, he stood straight up and looked at him. And he had a similar story about how he felt about being seen. So, I can't say, you had any different, maybe it was a different degree of, but many people have reported that kind of thing, because he said he went home, he threw his gun, because he was out hunting, he threw his gun in his cabinet and everything. He didn't unload it, nothing. He just went straight to bed. So your story is awesome, but wow, but it's one of those things, it just seems awesome. It's just awesome to hear it, and they're similar stories. You know what I mean? I mean, it just makes me believe it more.
Sure.
Well, I looked for these stories for a long time. This is 2007,
Right.
before the podcast came out. And Sasquatch Chronicle comes along in 2012, and I'm starting to hear some of these stories, and then I hear what happened to me sounds pretty anemic, by comparisons. And these guys are having seriously terrifying accounts.
Sure.
And I can't imagine how they felt or feel after. What baffles me so much are people that have these encounters where they see this thing and it screams at them and yells at them, and they go back looking for it.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
I have to tell you, if that ever happened to me, I'd be standing right next to you knitting. I'm like, nope, ain't gonna do it. Because we refer to the fight or flight syndrome, and you said that you were just frozen until he made that whoop at you, and that kind of broke you out. That's, I don't like that. I don't think I like that feeling at all.
You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I'll say this for as long as I'm doing this. Human beings, us, we are not we don't have the emotional fortitude, the bona fides to handle seeing these creatures face to face. We just can't handle it. I know I couldn't handle it. Maybe there's people that can. I don't want to put everybody in a box, but there's so many inharmonious emotions coming to you at one time.
Right.
For me, it was. It was excitement and fear and anger. All, and then terror hits you.
Right.
And it locked me up. I was locked up, and I think I was so afraid that I was going to have to shoot it.
Right.
Because that's how he acted like he wanted to kill me. And I can't tell you if I hadn't had that gun, because he knew what that was. There's no doubt that if I hadn't had it, what would have happened?
Right. So yeah, that's a great point. Was that the one item that caused restraint on his part? That's
right.
That's true. But then
and
again,
he follow me out.
Yeah.
If he followed me out, he was a ninja. If he did, which makes sense.
Sure.
Or was it the one, whatever broke that limb? Obviously, it was one of them. If it wasn't him,
Right.
ushering me on out. When I stopped and turned around, I guess I wasn't leaving fast enough for them. You know,
They're like, no,
they
don't
broke that.
don't
Yeah,
you
don't
you dare
stop
turn
now.
back. Get going. Well, you
Yeah.
know, did you ever see in that time you were in there? Did you ever see things like weird tree structures and things, or odd twisting breaks that are often talked about?
No, not that I could remember. But I wasn't looking for that stuff. You know, if I did see it, I would have thought it was deadfall. You know, I wasn't examining deadfall.
Right.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
Some of these things you kind of have to. You look at two trees coming together like this, and then you look down, and there's no stump or nowhere, or it's a different tree limb from a tree that's nowhere near. You know, you're not thinking about that stuff when you're out there. I mean, I had one focus, and that was tracking deer.
Yeah.
That's a good point, you know, and I think that's we lose sight of that. It's like we get really focused on what we're doing, and you know, we don't have the ability to see the whole picture
We
anymore
forget to
because
be aware
you
of
get
our
that tunnel
surroundings.
vision.
Yeah.
You're looking for deer. You're looking for
Right.
one specific type of game and its related signs. Everything else is just noise because you're focused in on that one thing. So yeah, you're right. I mean, all of this stuff wouldn't have been important. It would have been just discarded because you were there for a purpose.
Right.
But and then after that, all of those things that were discarded come back onto you all at once. It's like, whoa. Yeah, my hat's off to you. I think I don't know how you overcome something like that, and perhaps you never do. It's kind of like anything else. I suppose you just, well, you know, and people say that, and I suppose that that's true, but I think it's probably kind of like a bad breakup. You know, you never maybe get over it, but you learn to live with the scars. Maybe it's like that. I don't know.
I know I could not stop looking up Bigfoot stuff.
Yeah.
Stop looking. I mean, that's all I did. I wanted some validation 1st because you do have those moments where you're like, did I really see that? You know, am I just going crazy? And then, of course, I mean, snap back from that. I know exactly what it was. No one will ever be able to tell me that it wasn't a Sasquatch.
Right.
That's exactly what it was. No doubt. That's what it was. And then everything else that happened throughout the years that just didn't make any real sense. I just rationalized them away.
Right.
The only thing that makes any sense is them.
Right.
It ties it all together.
Right.
So they're there. And I mean, it's the reason we do the show we do now, the way we do it.
Right.
Like I said, I was doing the research thing and I couldn't do it. And I was still wake up. Linda said I would just be yelling in my dreams, in my sleep.
Right.
And she would wake me up, and then I'm having this lucid, terrifying. It was never my encounter, but it was always the same type of dream. And I think I told you about this, where I'm driving, and it's a narrow path I'm driving down. The limbs are hitting either side of the vehicle, and I'm going to a camp. I can see the fire and everybody around it, you know, 100 yards away or however far it is, and that's where I'm going. I'm trying to get there, and it's dark. And I can't drive all the way. I've got to stop and get out and go to it. And when I get out, that's when this thing is, I can feel it. I don't ever see it. But in my mind, this Sasquatch is bearing down on me, and he's about to get me at any moment. Right. And then I wake up. I can't tell you how many times I've had that dream. It's in different places, but it's the same. It's the same type of dream. Maybe once I was in a basement, and a Sasquatch was trying to get me through the little small window. It was trying to get to me. I can remember that dream.
Right. It just becomes a part of you. Yeah.
Yeah. So Linda said, well, you know, we would listen to Sasquatch Chronicles and things like that. She said, okay, well, why don't we do something like that, where we go and interview people and have their encounters on video, something different. And then that turned into, well, we're going to make this trip. Let's make it not a 15-minute video. Let's make it a documentary. Let's document these people's experience that they're having. So, I mean, and it's hard to find a guest that has had multiple experiences. So that's why we normally focus on researchers, and we don't have to go tromping through the woods looking for anything.
Right.
We're not looking for Bigfoot. Everything that we're getting is already there. All we have to do is disseminate it in a linear fashion and make it palatable. And I've studied really hard. I just camera angles on TV and how interviews are conducted. And you can see the progression If you watch our films, you can definitely see how they've changed, and to me, they've gotten better. But
Right.
I only wanted to put out something that I thought I would want to watch,
Right.
and that's why we do it, and the awareness factor of it, that maybe someone that doesn't believe in Sasquatch at all can watch our show and they'll glean just a little something. Whoa, that's happened to me. And whether you believe in Sasquatch or not, that you'll consider it when you're out there in those situations, in those woods, and you hear that whoop and that holler and that knock and that yell, that you're not rationalizing it away as something else, that you will consider that it's a Sasquatch. And that way, if it does walk out on you, it's not going to have that sudden moment of realization effect on you and jack you up like it did me for so long.
Right. Brent and I got a call. Oh gosh, it was a year and a half ago. It was November or October of 17, and I got a call and I brought it to. So Brent and I went out and we were told that somebody had found a blind that they had no explanation for. It was on private property, and it was surrounded by private property as well. And there was no kids out in this area, and no kids to out build forts and things like this. And so we went out and looked at it. We took a friend of ours with us. We took two friends of ours with us. One is a Sasquatch investigator from
Researcher.
researcher from the Big Thicket down in Texas, right?
Cindy Goodbrake.
Cindy Goodbrake, yeah. She went out there and she didn't want to tell anybody. Whoa, it got really quiet.
Yeah, I turned off the fan.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
So she went out there and she didn't want to tell the person that, she thinks that there was maybe a traveler coming through there, not, I don't want to say a rogue, but a traveling creature that came through there, or Bigfoot or Sasquatch, whatever. They also reported that they were missing 25 chickens,
Yeah.
Since that day, I don't like to go out into that part of the forest anymore, the woods anymore, without my pistol. I'd prefer to go with people, but it was a part that I used to go into every now and then. So when these people came and told me about it, I was like, wow, and then finally they said that they had been through there 100 times and never seen this before. So, and the pictures we took of it, Brent's got some pictures and stuff, and it's got this 6-inch sapling pulled over from 30 feet up, pulled over and used as an arch. It's not broke, it's not pulled out of the ground, and then it's weaved with fresh branch breaks like you would weave a lean-to. It's incredible. Now I have been out there since then, and it's pretty much fallen down. It's not been taken care of. So it may have just been a migration route or a hunting route or something that they stayed at. But I tell you what, like you said, I would not go out there without a sidearm or something bigger.
So I'm putting a picture of it on the screen right now, just so you can see the structure that we checked out. I don't know when it'll get to you, but because I know you got a delay, but you can see there's.
I'll see it.
Yeah, there's rudimentary weaving going on, the way the branches are interconnected, and it was really pretty spectacular.
And those are fresh breaks. Now, if they were fallen from a tree, it would make sense that they wouldn't be upside down, because the fresh breaks are in the air, and then it comes down. So it's been built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Do you have the picture of me standing next to it?
Yeah, it's all in here. Let me get to all that. Let me zoom back out first. But yeah, and the other thing was they had 30 chickens.
Yeah.
And they ended up with 9, and there was no.
Those are the old pictures. Those are dead leaves.
Oh, okay. There was no leaf litter or no. What am I looking for? Feathers,
right.
From the chickens. There was no.
When you grab a chicken, it blows feathers.
There was no feather litter or anything that would be common when you're speaking in terms of a predator like a coyote or something grabbing a chicken. They'll subdue it right there, and the chicken, of course, will blow the feathers and stuff. But there was not a feather to be found. Just missing chickens over and over and over a period of time.
You say that, and the area that I hunted was right dead in the middle. You know, you get the 10,000-foot view, and just about 3/4 of a mile in 5 directions are chicken houses.
Ah.
In every direction. This place is right in the middle. Well, we talked to these people when we were doing the documentary, and the guy Bo that has seen them twice out there says his dad owns chicken houses, and they would just miss 10, 20 chickens at a time, and there would be no scene, you know, like if something came in and got them, there would be a scene.
Yes.
Obviously, feathers, whatever, everywhere.
Yep.
And so they set traps, and they set these like you know, not live traps, like I'm gonna get you, kill you traps.
Right.
And drove them in the ground with 3-foot rebar.
Wow.
And they found the trap, one of the traps, completely pulled out of the ground.
Jeez.
Now, you try to pull 3-foot of rebar out of the ground.
Yeah.
That's not a coyote or a bobcat or whatever.
Right.
You know, and this is 3/4 of a mile away from where I saw this thing.
Right.
Now, Linda was a home health nurse for a long time. She's an RN. She worked home health. And just down the road, not even a mile, was like one of her patients. And this was before she knew anything about, you know, what happened to me. He had like 10 dogs. And every time she'd get out, you know, for a couple of trips to see them, the dogs are, you know, jumping on her and trying to get her to pet them and all that good stuff. He pulls up there one day and there's no dogs. They're all gone.
Jeez.
So you ask him, you know, where's all this damn dogs, you know? And he's like, well, they just started vanishing one at a time. They just disappear. They get real skittish and didn't want to come around people. And yeah, the last one just left here just a couple of days ago. And I'm thinking, yeah, he didn't leave.
Yeah.
He got picked off.
Oh.
You know, easy pickings.
Right.
And I've had so many experts tell me that I say so many, at least 3.
Right.
Tell me Sasquatch doesn't eat meat.
Oh.
Now, how anybody can sit here and tell you what Sasquatch doesn't do is just blows me away.
Right.
You know, how do you know they don't do something? I heard Jim King, and I talk to Jim, you know, quite often.
Right.
But I heard him say one time, if somebody tells you that Sasquatch locks their knees back, they're lying.
Yep.
How do you know? How do you know they can't lock their knees back? How do you know there's something that they can't do? Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean that they can't do it. And you definitely can't call somebody a liar.
Right.
I mean, you've seen these things yourself. You know they exist. How can you call it, no matter what they say? I can't. I believe everybody. I just have this thing in me. You tell me you saw it, I'm with you.
Right.
I believe everything you're telling me. And I understand people that don't believe these people. And I don't think people make it up. I don't think they're making it up. I just don't. I had one guy that seemed a little, you know, the way you acted there doesn't seem right. So, but I don't think he was lying. I just don't think I was getting all the story.
Right.
Right. Gotcha. You know, I think that it's we see that in all the paranormal field, those people that desperately want to explain things away. They desperately want for the world to be what they know it is, and they will defend that, even in the face of scientific proof. They will defend that because they can't adjust that paradigm. They don't want to turn that corner. And you know, I've heard people say, I don't want to know what's out there. I don't want to know that there's something like this out there, because once they do, the game has changed.
Right.
It's a different world. Suddenly everything changes, and a lot of people don't want to try to adapt to that. It's a pretty comfortable place being on the top of the food chain and being the alpha males and all that stuff. And, you know, just knowing that just around the nook, maybe down in the holler is the champ and he hasn't showed up yet, you know?
You know, and that's what makes me believe that there's a very large population of these things, a lot more than people think. You know, it would not surprise me to know that there was 1 million in the United States.
Oh, sure.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Because and people, you know, you say that and people are like, no, there's no way. It's not possible. Well, how many white-tailed deer are there in the United States?
Oh, yeah.
Just white-tailed deer. I'm not talking about elk and moose and every other kind of deer. There's 35 million white-tailed deer in the United States. There's 2 million just in the state of Mississippi.
Wow.
Is it so far-fetched? I mean, how often do you see one of them, even when you're looking for them?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it so far? And then we're talking about something that's not self-aware, really.
Right.
Deer and other animals aren't self-aware. And what I mean by self-aware is, like a cat. You hold a mirror up to a cat, and he thinks it's another cat.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't realize it's his own reflection. I think Sasquatch are very self-aware. I think they have free will. Just as we do, and that's why I believe they're unpredictable and they're not all the same. You can't put the same, even if you studied them, if you studied a family of these things 20 years, you still only know about this family,
right,
and what they do.
Right.
I think they're that much different from one another. Obviously, with the reports you hear, how different they look from one another. I don't think it's a separate species. I just think they're like us.
right.
They don't all look like each other. We don't all look like each other. Some people are tall, some people are short, fat, thin. I think it's the same with these things. Someone sees one that's 4 feet tall and they say, oh, there's a juvenile. Well, how do you know? How do you know it's a juvenile?
Right.
Maybe it's just a small adult.
Yep.
We just see, things we just don't. We assume a lot. I've done it too. I'm guilty of it, but I think it's important for us to get on these experts and ask these questions, because I think it's hurting the subject, because people are not stupid. Mm-hmm. Especially people that are not really into Sasquatch, but might look into it every now and then, and they're hearing these people talk, and I'm sure there's this it's presupposed that you have to have this intimate knowledge of Sasquatch to be taken seriously in it, and I don't think, that's obviously not true, but I can see how someone feels that way, so they embellish. They come up, they have these thoughts and ideas that they pass off as facts. And I think that's dangerous to do that, to someone to hear you say, well, this is a fact, this is what they do. And then come to find out, no, if you do that, they'll tear your head off. And that's why we need to hold people's feet to the fire. We just do. We need to ask them why, how do you know that?
Right.
What brought you to that conclusion?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting too, and that's something that I guess I've always tried to do. And long before I even had a Paranormal Portal or the idea of a show, whenever I came across forums of people talking like experts and oh, this is BS, this is just a bunch of BS, I would always challenge that, because and quite honestly, I would challenge it because if the person is right, I want to learn what they know, and if they're wrong, I don't want them to get away with just blindly, making blanket statements like that are unfair and unquantifiable. So I'd always be like, well, what is it that makes it bunk? Like even for the instance, like a ghost video. And I try to look at things like that very objectively, because, I think that, I'm passionate about the subject matter. And I think any evidence is good, and if it stands to at least a rudimentary examination, then maybe it should be considered. But there's so many people that, this is a bunch of BS. This is garbage. And it's like, okay, why? And I'll tell you what happened once. I was on a Bigfoot forum a long time ago. And there was this one weird photo that was circulating at the time, and people were like, "Wow, I think this is maybe a Bigfoot squatting down and in this weird position, and check it out, you can see this and this and this." And I was like, it just didn't seem right to me, and I wasn't sure what about it was. I didn't know what I was seeing, but I knew that what people were trying to play it off as didn't seem right to me. And it wasn't until some guy went, oh no, that's a deer, and you can see he's doing this, he's in this position, and once the person did that, boom,
you couldn't unsee it.
I couldn't unsee it. He was absolutely right. It was exactly that. But prior to that, there were all these people that were just going to educate everybody else about how it was this Bigfoot in this weird position, and this is what he was doing, and this is why. And once that person said it, it was no, it's a deer. But it's people, and I understand making educated guesses and stuff, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't sell it like it's a theory. They sell it like it's knowledge.
Right.
And I think that can be damaging,
Well, they discredit themselves.
Right.
Like I said, people are not stupid. And if you present your beliefs in a sphere of truth, they will be accepted as knowledge. Mm-hmm. People will give you more credibility If you're able to say, I don't know, but this is what I think,
Right.
instead of saying, this is what they do, this is what they don't do, people know better. They're not going to take you as seriously. So they discredit themselves.
Right. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. So I know you said you had to leave a little bit
Right.
early tonight, but it's about 8:30 my time
Yeah.
right now, which is 10:30 yours. But I want to make sure we have some time to talk about what's going on, what's coming up for Bigfoot Odyssey. What is the future looking like for Bigfoot Odyssey? What direction are you guys going, and any big plans in the works? Because I'm a fan. I want to know.
No, I can stay for the show.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think I was going to be able to, but I can. What's coming up? Well, we were planning on the trip to Vermont in September, and we've had to postpone that. A lot of things have come up,
Okay.
and we're not going to be able to make that one. But there's a guy in Mississippi, Mike Simmons, who's got them all around his house, and he's got all this evidence, got a good story to tell. So that's going to be our next one. It's a really short trip, and it'll be a lot easier on the old pocketbook for us right now.
Yeah.
Christopher Noel he's putting together a march on Washington, and we're going to document that. We're going to wait until after the election, so it's still a good, better than a year away before it does. But we're going to be really prepping for that and pushing that, and hoping that we can get enough people on board to at least get us some attention.
Right.
If we could do this march on Washington and plead with them. Validate this species. Make it. Get some scientists, get some money together, do a study, and put this thing out there so people can be aware. And at best, if we get 200 people to go and do it, it's going to be news. So we're gonna get noticed, and it's ambitious, absolutely, but somebody needs to do it. It hasn't been done yet, and it's understandable. A lot of people that are in this do it anonymously for obvious reasons.
Sure.
But we have to take it real. And I actually wrote something for this. I can find it.
Sure. Love to hear it.
It might have been the one that I gave you,
Oh, cool.
Brent, or something close to it.
Yeah, I can pull it up. Just a second here. Do you want me to give?
The one that I changed. Let's see. It is. It's not an original thought to say people are motivated by fear. The fear of death can motivate you to be healthy. The fear of the dark can motivate you to turn to the light. But the fear of ridicule, that one can motivate people to do nothing. And that's not good. We can no longer allow the strings of doubt to hold us in place. The barrier to enlightenment is the development of self-consciousness. If we have to free ourselves from the disparagement of ignorance and know that among ridicule, mockery, and denial still exists a truth. And the truth shall not only free us all, but the truth will free others' perception of the unknown and bring to light all that we know and believe. That's what we have to do.
That's
Not worry about what other people are going to say, and just put it out there because it's the truth. You can't hide from it. Lying to yourself is the worst lie you can tell.
right.
That's what they're doing.
I have to say that in the Bigfoot community, the show Finding Bigfoot takes it on the chin a lot. Now, I will say, what's that?
They killed us.
Yeah. Oh, you think so? Okay.
They ruined our credibility so bad.
Okay. See, but what I was thinking is that what they did do was they created a narrative for the conversation to happen, because now a lot more people became introduced to the world of Bigfoot, and a lot more people are willing to talk about it than before. Before it was such an odd subject, and it seemed to mainstream it a bit, and I'll give you that it definitely killed the research, because it made everybody believe that to research Bigfoot was to go out in the woods and knock on trees and howl. And
Yeah. Well, they never found anything.
Right. Well, they
you know,
found.
and thank God for Wes Kermer.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. They found sponsors, but but I think that the one thing that it did do is that it created the ability for people to have the conversation. And I think that was that in and of itself, even though so much else about the show was wrong and it didn't do a lot of favors in a lot of other regards, I think at least people have the conversation. So I think the March is going to be probably really popular because I'll tell you, we do paranormal on obviously we do all paranormal
Yeah.
as the name would suggest. But I'll tell you, when I'm looking at our show numbers, when I'm looking at the shows people are interested in, it's like 3 to 1 or 2 to 1. A lot of times people are checking out our Bigfoot shows when we cover Bigfoot and cryptids by like a 3 to 1 or at least 2 to 1 average over everything else. It's such a hot topic for so many people, and there are so many enthusiasts out there that are doing just what you did and what I did and what this ravenous. I want to understand. I want to understand what this is, and it really has people intrigued. And I think that now is a great time moving forward to bring people to that point where they're willing to admit, hey, okay, yeah, I want it acknowledged. I want it brought out. I think it deserves that credibility. Thousands of footprints cast, hair samples, different samples, anecdotal evidence, empirical evidence. It at least deserves some form of recognition. And why is there such a sluggishness by science to refuse to invest in that when they'll go look for a minnow in, sub-Saharan Africa? I don't understand. You know what I mean?
Well, it destroys a lot of paradigms. That this thing is not supposed to exist.
Sure.
I think it gives away probably a lot of our origins. I don't think it's all government that's keeping this thing in the dark. I think maybe the light industry. Because, you think about just the amount of litigation involved in validating a species that's already hard to find.
Right.
PETA would shut the woods down until all these lawsuits were over. So I think they have a stake in it. Just my opinion.
Right.
Sure.
Maybe they don't.
Right.
It makes sense to me. But there's probably a good reason. There's probably a good reason that they keep it hidden. And though we don't know what it is, may never know. We know they're out there. We're not going to be able to prove it to anybody. Even if you got video evidence of one walking across your front yard, it's not going to prove anything because the digital age. There's too many things you can do to images. People they're going to find it hard to believe. You might grab some, the ones that are on the fence. But I believe the best we're going to be able to do is awareness. Just be aware.
Sure.
And I think that's our best angle in this anyway.
Right.
Just consider it.
So now let me ask you a question, and this goes on in the research community quite a bit, a lot of back and forth about this, and it's nothing real risky or anything, but of course many people have tried to use trail cams, and generally trail cams are pretty unsuccessful. I've heard that there's a lot of trail cam pictures out there that are never going to be released because the people that got them are not willing to step forward and take that on the chin. But do you think they can see infrared?
I do.
Okay.
And that's just because the reason I say that is, dogs can see infrared.
Okay.
If they have anything that have that extra rod and cone in their eye that makes their eyes shine when you shine lights on them.
Uh-huh.
The reason I know this is because a friend of mine had it remote of the TV, and he was pointing at the ground and pressing the button, and his dog was chasing it.
Oh, really?
So that
TV remote. Wow.
Yeah, that dog could see that light beam coming out of there, and he was chasing that light from that remote. So we know dogs can do it. Why wouldn't they be able to? If we know their eyes reflect, at least some of them do.
Mm-hmm.
They have that extra rod and cone in their eyes that causes that. And so I believe they can see infrared. I believe they can detect possibly the EMF from the batteries.
Okay.
That's another thing.
Right.
Plus, it's their house, it's their yard.
Right.
I think they just know where every stick and leaf and I don't think you can move anything out there without them knowing. Besides the fact that they're probably watching you when you put it up there.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and all that given and being said, there are a few decent game cam pictures. There are some.
Okay.
You just have to go look for them.
Right.
Okay. Are they in the public domain, or are they just in the hands of researchers?
Yeah, you can find some of the best audio I ever heard that sounded so much like what I heard was Screams in the Woods, Georgia, 2013. This guy had a game cam, a trail cam up, and you can hear this thing wailing off in the distance, and it's got that tone, that demonic, multiple vocal cord tone. You just know it's not a person.
Sure.
There's no way they can't do that. And but that's when I heard that, I was like, that's a Sasquatch. That's exactly the tone I heard come out of the one I was looking at when he was doing it.
Oh man. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, you've got a front row seat to that one.
Yeah.
That was an opera that you couldn't mistake.
No filter there.
Yeah.
Wow.
No.
So how about call blasting? Do you think that there's any virtue to doing things like that?
I think things like that are useless, man. I really do. I just think they know you're there already. You're not surprising them. I think it's a waste of time. I think the best angle that I've seen work the best is just out there pretending not to notice anything at all. Because once they know, they're there, it seems like the game changes a little bit. Mm-hmm. They either get more aggressive. I think that's like Carl Gotro's experience and Rachel down there in Lafayette, Louisiana, is they're throwing to the house. You know, as soon as they put those cameras up, all up close. Oh. You know, they were coming into the backyard stealing dog food and leaving 17-inch footprints in the backyard.
That's an even trade.
Strange screams and whistles. And so I think once they know you're there, so just go out there and pretend like you're not doing anything. But I think you make noise maybe. What I have seen work that they did in South Florida was just act a fool. I mean, go out there and grabbing limbs and shaking them and screaming and to get their attention. Uh-huh. And I think that's the best angle if you're going to go and try to get them close to you, is make them come to you, because I think they will.
Yeah, and of course we hear stories all the time of them. And Bear said when he was on the show, he's like, we're their entertainment. They love to watch us.
Right.
And I suppose that makes sense, because you can only watch sticks so long, and you need something to stimulate your mental capacity. But there's so many stories of them sitting and looking in the windows as people are watching TV and stuff.
Peekers.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think one of the things that really impresses me the most of these beings, and whatever they're defined as, is their ability to adapt. I've heard stories of them down in Mexico. I've heard stories of them in every habitat that we have on the entire North American continent, and they are surviving and seemingly thriving. I just find that amazing, and I don't know that there's any other thing in the natural order that could do all of those things and yet thrive in all those different disparate locations.
Yeah. Just imagine that type of intelligence out there not wanting to be found out, but still want to interact with us. That does happen. I hear people say, well, we should just leave them alone. Well, they're not going to leave us alone. Mm-hmm. Like you said, they're going to peek in the window, right. Especially I think the juveniles, the younger ones, I think want to mess with us more. I think Rick Wells, they mess with him constantly. Yeah. Throwing things and hearing them run off giggling, I mean, that's emotion. That's emotion.
Yeah.
Laughing.
It's like any other kid would do.
It's an eye opener.
Yeah.
That's right. I think the big boys don't want to have anything to do with us. I think there's a palpable indifference. They can just care less about us until we get into their domain.
Well, so with that being said, what about the stuff that happened down in Honobia? This
I think they were hungry,
Really?
and they had a solid food source for a long time, and yeah. Plus, there's so many angles and variables to it. What if you've got a family that's just all inbred,
Mm,
you know, which is going to produce a lesser mentality, maybe more angry.
right. Yeah.
Not maybe they don't have the abilities they should have to hunt the way they should, or or whatever. I think inbreeding happens,
Wow.
and I think Dog Man is a result of inbreeding Sasquatch. I don't think it's half dog, half man. I just think these are jacked up Sasquatch.
Wow.
They end up three toes. Three toes is a clear indication of and fingers is that of inbreeding. Um, father daughter, mother son is not as bad as what I've been told
That's an
as
interesting thought. Yeah.
father daughter.
Wow.
It's causes these inbreed, and then you have, I mean, you're talking about something that has, like us, has free, that's sentient. They're allowed to have mental issues, I suppose.
Yeah.
I would think is the things in our life that form the way we think and the way we process information.
Right.
So I have to think, although their lives living in the woods should be similar, you don't know what they've come across. We don't know from one to the next. To me, they're that much different from one another that you can't trust them for sure.
Right.
So you hear so many stories of them being aggressive with people, and then some are just sweet as they can be,
Right.
and want to be nice and play with you, and just so there. You can't look at it like it's a deer.
Right.
You know, a deer is a slave to its stomach, to nature, easily patterned. You know, something that like I said has free will and can choose. You're not ever going to pattern them. I think they go out of their way to make sure you can't pattern them. As a matter of fact, I think they don't do the same thing twice.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think they do.
Which would be a sign of extraordinary intelligence to be able to function on
Could be
such-
wrong.
Well, yeah, but you could be right too. And if you're right, that that means they're at least equally as intelligent as us, if not more so in some ways. And I suppose there's all kinds of different intelligences, but they are certainly one with their environment. How big is the biggest one you've ever heard of? When we're talking in terms of height and such.
That I've ever heard of.
Well, sure.
20 feet.
20
20
feet?
feet?
That's a giant.
20 feet.
Oh
Fred
my-
Caney. Fred Caney claimed to have two 20-footers on his property. Of course, I don't know. I kind of take that with a grain of salt.
Is that a
I think
Is he a fisherman too? No, just kidding.
Fred's okay.
Is he? Okay.
Fred's, yeah, I think he believes everything he's saying. I don't
Sure.
think he's lying to anybody. I think he believes all of it.
Sure.
Whether he's actually witnessed these things, I think a lot of it is like this happens. People want to be an expert. They want to be the best, number one. So they take the things that they think and they believe and they put it out there as fact. This is what they do. This is what they don't do. Take my word for it.
Right.
So yeah, 20-footer is but you know, our perceptions are askew.
Sure.
As people, you
Well-
look at people see a 8-footer and it's like, man, this thing was 12 feet tall.
Right.
Right.
And he was only 8 feet tall.
Right.
That's the
And
way it looked.
of course,
you know.
fear is a distorter as well. In that kind of, I'm sure they probably look like Godzilla, at first, but that's got to be the biggest one I've ever heard rumored of.
Wow.
But how about and no disrespect to that gentleman, I don't know him, and I didn't mean to poke fun of him at all. I don't mean to come off sideways like that.
No.
But that is a hell of a claim. I've never heard anything like that.
So,
Wow.
But I think there's probably an average. The big ones, 8 foot, 10 foot. They say the mountain giants, the ones that live farther north, and the DNA study that Melvin Ketchum did separates them from the ones in the north and the ones in the south.
Oh.
That there's a distinct difference. I think they're a lot taller and more muscular, and a lot calmer in the mountains in the North Pacific Northwest, and then further south you get Florida, the skunk ape, which is, I think it's the same thing. It's just maybe the difference in a Chinese person and an African American or a white person. I think that's more the difference. I think they could probably interbreed with each other.
Sure.
But the DNA study that Melba did, there was a difference, and maybe there's some of this type up north and the other type down south, and maybe it's a clan thing. Maybe there's different groups and they all have different rules. I mean, I don't know. There's just so much we don't know, and probably won't know until we can get one to sit down just like I am and talk to us.
Right.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And, I agree with you. In fact, I was just thinking that very thing tonight about, there are some distinct differences. But then, if you look at just one segment of our population based upon race, you look at African American population, there's quite a variable of how people that are African American look. Look at Caucasians, same thing.
Yep.
Caucasians have come in all shapes and colors and sizes, and there's redheads, there's dark hair, there's blonde hair, there's, bad complexion, weird, facial features. We have a whole range physically in our lineages, and so, as we get these variable reports of, well, I think it's something different because it looked like this. Well, these aren't black labs. They're they are a humanoid, and I think as that they would have humanoid variables like we do. We don't look like not everybody looks this good is all I'm saying. But I mean, it's
nobody wants to look this good.
Well, I'm just saying it's not easy. That's all I'm saying. But but I think that's a great point. Is that could really attribute to the fact that they have a lot of visual variances between them, is because they are humanoid, and as humanoids, we don't all look the same. We have a lot of variances: height, size, weight, facial features, body features. So I think you're absolutely onto something there, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
And I could be wrong about all of it.
Well, then we'd both be
Every
wrong,
single
and
bit
I'm
of
not
it.
willing to go that far.
Yeah,
It's what makes sense. Looking into it for 12 years, this is what makes sense.
Yeah.
If that's not the case, then there's a lot of different types.
Right.
And you hear that too.
Sure.
There's 10 types. There's 4 types.
Yeah.
How they know that? That's just somebody trying to sound like an expert. That's all that means.
Well, it could be. It could be. I think that I had something I was going to say, and then Don's laugh just threw me. I was going to say
you're talking
something.
about types, 10 types, 4 types.
Oh, I know, but I lost it. It was good, too, I think. I think it was good, but I can't remember it, ladies and gentlemen. But it happens to me all the time.
I destroyed it.
It's okay. It usually takes a lot less to destroy my concentration, Kerry. So
He'll sit up in bed tonight and go, that's what I wanted to say.
let me get that stream going again. Because my words carry so much weight, obviously. No, I think that there's a lot that we don't know, and you're right. But I think, I guess I remember what I was going to say is that the thing is that I think everything is on the table, in a truly scientific measure. You can't discount anything because we can't prove anything or disprove anything at this point. So any idea, any hypothesis is still just as valid as any other. To look at this in a purely scientific manner, you can't discount something just because it doesn't seem like it's what you want it to be, or you might have some kind of predisposition towards one or the other. You've got to embrace it all. So that's I think definitely the case for these things and all of the paranormal.
Yeah, and I think the knowledge is out there. At least the things we all desperately know, but just we haven't figured out yet, or haven't made the hard sacrifice to get. But I don't think it rests in one person or 2 or 3. I think it rests in the collective. So we talk to as many people as we can.
Right.
We make comparisons, ask questions.
Right.
That's the only way we're going to learn anything. We're still only going to strengthen what we believe.
Right.
But if we do it, like I said, you do it in a sphere of truth, and you're not at least you're not being disingenuous. You
Yeah.
know, and your beliefs will be accepted as knowledge,
Yeah.
and you'll at least have some credibility in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree, brother. And we're kind of nearing the end of our journey tonight, but I want to make sure to spend some time thanking you, first of all, for being here with us tonight. It's been great.
Oh no, it was great, man.
It's a
Great.
great.
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, for sure. And for any of our people watching or listening that are not familiar with how to stay in touch with you, and I'm sure that's very few, but could you let people know how to keep in touch with what you guys are doing over there?
Yeah, they can go to our website, bigfootodyssey.us. Right there on the front page is a phone number. You can call me, text me anytime, day or night. If I don't answer, I'll call you right back. Anybody that's got a story to tell will travel anywhere to do it. And that's we've got our Facebook group. Miss Daniela Aiolo runs that. She does a lot of work for us.
Mm-hmm.
She produces the live show that we do twice a week, Wednesdays, Saturdays, 7:00 p.m. Central. The Researchers Report. We do narrations on Wednesdays, and then we have all live guests, normally researchers. Kind of a mini version of the travel show without all the bells and whistles. And then if somebody has a story they want us to narrate, to tell their story and talk about it, you can email us at yourbfstory@gmail.com, or you can just email me straight up at bigfootodyssey@gmail.com.
Well, excellent.
And that's
brother.
it.
That's plenty, and you guys are doing some great things over there. And I, as I stated earlier, we've become friends, and I'm really honored, and I really appreciate you being here on the show and being a part of what we're doing over here as well.
Awesome.
And thank you for all that you've done to encourage people to come and find us. That's just amazing, and I can't thank you enough for that. But thanks so much for being on the show, brother.
Hey, wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy what you guys are doing, man. Like I told you, I'm addicted. I'm making every live stream, and everybody right now, go and hit the thumbs up.
Oh yeah.
Do it right now.
There
Don't
you go.
hesitate. Go and takes a second.
Give it a Bigfoot squash.
Nice.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Don, anything in closing?
I just want to say thank you very much, Mr. Kerry, for being here. And, we are fans of your show, and we will obviously, be there for you as much as we can. Appreciate you being here, as I said. Don't forget, we've got new podcasts dropping Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. What is today? Today's Wednesday. So Friday is going to be a good one.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you that.
It's our bear interview, part 2, Bigfoot and the
two.
Bear. You can find the podcast anywhere the podcasts are, ladies and gentlemen. Just make sure to subscribe, and it'll be delivered right to your device.
Right
So,
to your device.
everybody, we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Thank you all so much for being here. We had a record number of people watching the show. We are absolutely honored. I hope we've got a lot of new faces in here. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you so much, and spread the word. The portal is taking over. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
All right, guys, we love you, and you all take care and have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.